Welcome to the Art of Game Mastery, guys and gals. I'm John. This is Jack. We're your hosts, and we're going to be talking about deities again today. We already kind of did a part one of this. I think is our first video or our first Twitch stream. I think, right, Jack?
That's right. Our first
And
stream.
yeah, and I made the dummy mistake of not forgetting to record it, so we never got a chance to upload it to YouTube because we also had Twitch recordings turned off for whatever reason. That's off by default, which sucks. But it's on now, and we are recording now, so we'll have this one at least. While we're talking about John fucking up, I have to apologize for last week. We did get a recording and everything, but the quality was a bit lower because we had to rely on the Twitch recording because, again, I forgot to hit the record button locally on my machine. And also, I had the wrong audio stream enabled for Jack, so his audio is super muffled and low. I did the best I can in post-processing, but it was tough to get anything good out of it, so what's on YouTube is listenable, but it's not the best, so I apologize for that. Going forward, we'll try not to make that mistake again. So yeah, Jack, what deity did you want to start with? Did you want to start with one of yours or one of mine, or how do you want to do this?
I no preference. I can start this off if you want.
Yeah, go for it. Pick your favorite one, and I'll pop it up in the background.
Let's start off with Avadar.
Avadar?
That's
good.
If I can.
Is it not? That's unfortunate.
It's the first one, alphabetically speaking, on the list. So it's the first one to cover.
Yeah, just the browser's not showing up for some reason on the screen. Hold up a second. Let me do this. Let me just delete this guy.
And for all the technical difficulties we want. So I guess I'll get.
Yeah, go ahead and get started. I'll get it up when
enable the props. So Avadar is called Master of the First Fault. It's known for being lawful neutral, true lawful. So followers can be one step from that neutral law, which would be like lawful good or lawful evil. He looks like a normal person to whoever views upon him. That's kind of typical with mortals, though the caveats to that is usually shown in golden armor, holding keys. Keys is like his symbol. He also has a second form, which is a two-headed eagle, supposed to show he's kind of like indifferent or very neutral, whether it be politics or law. It's great for a GM to sneak into your campaign if you have a follower of Avadar and you want to kind of hint at them. And should they gain favor with Avadar, he gives out wealth, and it's meant to help grow the economy, so nothing wrong with giving a boon, in his opinion. He is worshipped by lawmakers, merchants, judges, other neutral clerks. Dwarves, who are crafters, as well as architects, worship him as well. In addition to Torag, he also gets some credit for the demi-humans in joining society. I found that information on the Kingsmaker. So, if you're trying to add that to your campaign, a little bit of extra non-canon history to go in there. So for those of mixed origin, Avadar might be right for you. His order is bringing wealth to nations, so churches double as a vault, kind of like for bankers to hoard their coins and materials. They use these funds to grow villages and span travel and trade, though the clergy do not give out donations. They're expected to tithe, and their beliefs are really not bound by government. It looks like you got that prop up, which is good news. So they like strong, independent people who pursue their own wealth and growth. So the realm that he comes from would be Axis, if you want to visit him. That's the lawful plane. For 5th edition people, that would be called Mechanus. Very similar with the plane since they originate from 3.5. So yeah. He is directly opposed to the Beast. He used to fight against Ravagug. We'll have to cover him eventually. He's kind of like the antagonist of the gods. He created a key that could lock him away. That's Ravagug, the Beast, who was trying to destroy all of Galarion. Typical deity thing. He could have fought alongside Old Eye, Aristil, who I covered previously, the god of family, but they kind of differ in viewpoints, whereas Aristil wants farmland and family, Avadar is more about the individual law and society, but they're very, very similar. So on his home on Axis, there's Archons, Axiomites, Inevitables, all the cogwork mechanisms. This is why crafters also worship him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of a merchant, a merchant god, like a god that merchants and crafters and such worship, not because they want a boon in crafting, but because they want a boon in selling their wares. I think that's a really cool thing that I don't recall there being something. I don't recall 5e or the Forgotten Realms or whatever having anything like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But I don't think there's a well-known like merchant god like there is in the Inner Seas region in Galarian. But I know in my homebrew world, uh, there is a merchant god, and he is very much, I guess, intervening with the general population. He's not like a god that sits back and, um, you know, lets fate do its work. He's very much someone who you pray to him, he's going to help you out, kind of deal. So I'm wondering if this particular merchant god is the same way. Is he one that kind of
His is kind of like they worship civilization and commerce. So like
does he directly intervene with their lives and like help them out if they pay the respects and live by their edicts?
Yeah, that's how he works.
Sweet.
He's all about building up society. So even the impoverished still pray to him for his boon.
Yeah, because I mean, you know me, I have unpopular opinions in regard to things like capitalism, and I think this is a really cool thing because it adds a very new dynamic to like. It's not so much anymore how much you can or how well you are at business. It could also be how faithful you are to your gods that could help you out in business, right? So it adds a whole new like power dynamic that to mercantile work that could really change things up. And I think that while I think it'd be kind of hard to add something like this to a campaign. Um, I think that it really does a good job at lending like a living, breathing world to your players, and like there's a lot of things that NPCs could be working on in the background that could benefit from this god. I don't know how much a player would benefit from this god so much from a lore standpoint. Obviously, from a mechanical standpoint, he's got some awesome stuff, especially if you're going for a more intrigue like game or a game where you're like going to be a lot of infiltrating like balls and other. Okay, Pedro was saying that your video was messed up, but I did notice that too. But it's good now. But yeah, if you're gonna have a campaign where a lot of society checks are gonna be made, this guy's gonna be super useful, especially if a lot of merchants and wealth is gonna be involved in that campaign as well. So.
Right. So he does provide quite a bit of lore, and I think too often as GMs when we're making a city, we tend to make, it's just easier to make a city one deity, and that's like the main ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Galarion, it's pretty obvious that there are multiple gods, and it's a little bit more pagan, and that their mindset of how they build their societies. So the banks kind of are like doubling as churches. So in a metropolitan, that would kind of make more sense, especially considering that their whole spiel is to help fund other cities because they're trying to bring civilization to the wilds.
Right.
So if you're running a campaign where you're designing a city, mixing in a couple of extra gods in there can kind of help balance out a city.
Yeah, when I'm world building, I try not to think of what god does the city worship or what gods does the city worship. I tend to think more of what people are going to worship this god or that god, and Galarian and other fantasy RPGs are typically polytheistic in their design because we have classes like clerics and paladins and whatnot. But leaning on that, in a real polytheistic society, people are going to be worshiping multiple gods, and they're going to be multiple god. Like pretty much every god is going to be worshipped somewhere in a major metropolitan city. So, yeah, if you're world building or GMA campaign, try to think of in any given scenario, try to think of who each individual character would worship and why, and not so much. He worships this god because he's in this city, kind of deal, or in this area, or he's of this race, or she, or whatever. You know, um, every
So let
NPC
me
should have its own desires and background and um, you know religious views. So
So back to the crunch. Let me break down some of these
sure,
stats. Avadar's Constitution Intelligence for a cleric.
makes sense.
You can do harm or heal. I find that interesting because they're totally neutral. You get that skill society, which we talked about. Favorite weapon is a crossbow. I don't know, man. Crossbow. It doesn't have propulsive like a sling does, so I wouldn't recommend taking crossbow unless you're taking Deadly Simplicity. If you're building a war priest, you already have access to the heavy crossbow because you would have martial weapons. So crossbow cleric, not necessarily beneficial from a mechanic standpoint. Domains, it's got quite a few to choose from: city, earth, travel, wealth, and duty. I looked at the starting domain spell that you would get if you choose to be a cloister cleric. City, kind of lackluster with face in the crowd. Earth domain has a one action spell attack, which is great for a bonus action. Travel probably has my favorite listed on there. That spell that goes with the domain for travel is just getting to stride and step with a spell, very useful. Wealth, it's another fascination, crowd control ability. Duty is so useless, I don't even want to cover it. So the reason why we're covering the deities in addition to all this is that it can be overwhelming to choose what deity you want, considering that clerics have access to divine spells.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know all of them. Now, when you choose the deity, that greatly affects what spells you're going to know that are going to be outside of that tradition. And so if you choose Avadar, like level 1, you start off with Illustrate Object. It's a level 1 spell. It's normally Arcane or Occult. It's basically like 3.5 Silent Image. Same thing as you get up to level 4 and I think it's 7, you get Creation and Magnificent Mansion. You should already have a spell to deal with what Magnificent Mansion does by this level. So for organic growth, I can't see anybody being excited to get this spell, but if you are making a higher level game, this might be for you. And if you're trying to add Avadar into your game, there are some good books that the wiki has information for. Some of those are the Order of Numbers and Market's Door. Remember we were saying he's a commerce god. So Market's Door would be great for adding that commerce to your game. And maybe you want to throw in those texts into your campaign. All right, that covers Avadar. John, you want to take it off?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm replying to Palis. I'll just reply to him in words since it's here. But he asked, "Is it the city or the people in the city?" And I think he's asking that in relation to the domain. And the way I understand it is, it's the city and everything that the city includes, which includes the people. It's basically civilization, the way I understand it, and society.
I would definitely read that civilization. That's the difference between a druid and a cleric in this path. Like, for a cleric of Aristil, they want to be out in the wilds. They want to be more nature oriented, whereas Avadar is more civilization based. And in addition to that, wealth and commerce, something that old Deadeye of Aristil is going to be. They want to trade. They don't really want coins. They want to hunt and use up everything as part of a natural cycle.
Right. So the first god I'm going to be covering is now, actually, after looking more into her, probably one of my favorite deities in the Inner Sea region. That's Phrasma. Phrasma is the arbiter of souls in the Golarian setting. And essentially, you can think of Phrasma as, if you look at it in terms of like Christianity, Phrasma is kind of like God, I guess, in Christian beliefs, where he's standing at the pearly white gates and he's judging people come by, saying, "Are you going to heaven and hell?" She's kind of the same deal, except there's more destinations than heaven and hell in this case. And the angels in Christianity would be more akin to her followers, which are psychopomps. And I think that since the the advent of, I think it was the what book was it that came out recently with all of the new ancestries? Was the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide? I think that was it. But it had the psychopomp heritage and a bunch of different ones relating to psychopomps, and I think that those were all really freaking cool. And I think that that's kind of put this particular deity on the radar a bit more. Excuse me, I have a cold, so my voice is kind of screwed up. So it's interesting to me that she actually resides in a giant gothic castle in essentially the void, but she's like sitting in the center of the multiverse, which is a really cool concept. And she kind of just waits on her iron throne, I guess you could say, and she's constantly looking back and forth in time and observing every soul's life, birth, death, everything to make her decisions. But she holds off on her decision until they are at her front door, basically. She doesn't try to let anything influence her until all the data's in and she has everything she needs to know and they're right there before her. Then she makes her final decision. And the psychopomps, like the angels, was that?
Do you want to add the graphic?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
For Phrasma.
The angel or the psychopomps are like the angels are the ones who are guiding the souls to her, to the pearly white gates. So in this case, the gates are, dreary and black and not pearly at all. But I like the idea that Paizo had an interesting approach to this. So oftentimes in fantasy settings, you have a god of death and birth or whatever, and then you have a separate god of time. Paizo recognized. So actually, I guess I should step back and say that this has a very specific meaning to me because I do have a background in mortuary. My family has a funeral home and all that jazz. So I found this particularly interesting that Paizo recognized that time, life, and death are all correlated and interconnected. So Phrasma is actually her domains include all three of those. They include death and fate and time and all that stuff. Which I think was a really, really smart play on their part because it allows you to really get a feel for what it means to live and die and how being judged can change over time based on your decisions throughout your entire life. So I think they did an excellent job with this god, even if it is kind of snatched from other religions. Like you got, the whole premise is Christianity, whereas the psychopomps come almost verbatim from Greek mythology. So, I mean, they did kind of steal quite a bit for this one, but I think they did a good job of connecting everything. I think that as a cleric, this is probably one of the easiest gods or deities, I suppose I should say, to play and practice. Because like your divine ability is Constitution or Wisdom. Both of those are super beneficial to clerics. They're going to be taking them anyway, likely. Your divine font is Heal. You're probably going to be a healer if you're a cleric. Divine skill is Medicine. You're probably going to already have trained or above in Medicine if you're a cleric. Favored weapon is Dagger, which I find weird. I don't know. I guess they just needed a weapon, and they kind of took the idea that, hey, this person's super gothic and emo, and I don't know, we can make it roguey and play a dagger. Though it does. Well, we'll get to that later. Yeah, a dagger seems really weird choice to me, especially because I don't know how many clerics I'm using a dagger. Though a 2 dagger wielding rogue cleric could be kind of cool, I guess. Let's see, domains.
What did we say about roles? We were talking about the Naruto healer. Oh, what's her name?
Sakura.
Sakura.
Yeah, that does remind me of that. Yeah, I mean, she definitely in the anime and the manga typically use kunais as her weapons, so that kind of fits the bill there. I see this a cleric in Phrasma to be more of a a combat medic than a straight up healer, I guess I should say, because once you look at her cleric spells, they're a lot more supporty than they are like straight up healing and dealing with disease and stuff like that. So actually, her cleric spells are freaking awesome. You get Mind Link, Ghostly Weapon, and Phantasmal Killer, all of which are really cool spells. And like seeing these mechanics of this particular deity, it makes me really want to build a cleric of Phrasma, because I think you can have so much fun with it both in and out of combat. Um, her domains are, like I mentioned, death, fate, healing is one of her domains, kind of taking on the Christianity thing again. You know, the God and Jesus were, you know, miraculous healers and whatnot. Um, Knowledge, which I thought was interesting. This one doesn't really come up much in her lore, but it makes sense that someone who's presiding over everyone's history basically would have a vast array of knowledge. Um, Her ultimate domains are also really cool: soul, time, and vigil. Soul, especially, I find really intriguing. I know in our Tagasea game, I'm playing a rogue who stumbled upon a soul, I think we call it soul carving dagger, I believe is what you named it. And it's able to extract souls from things that you slay with it and store them in some kind of receptacle. Very much a la Elder Scrolls, which is really really fun in combat. I mean, in play. And I'm having a blast with it. So, though it, we did run into a bit of a finagle last time where my alignment started to come into question after I, you know, used a large portion of those souls that I'd collected to heal myself. But that's part of the fun for me. Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think Pharasma would be a really fun and unorthodox deity to pick for a cleric. She is a neutral focused deity. So, you know, neutral good, lawful neutral, or neutral are her follower alignments. So playing her as like a paladin isn't really viable, I don't think, because I mean, well, you want to be lawful good to be a paladin. Maybe one of the other champion archetypes you could choose with it. But yeah, I think that this is probably one of my favorite deities to date, and I actually can't wait to play Cleric of Phrasma now.
It looks like I changed you. You went from not wanting to play Cleric to totally wanting to play Cleric.
I didn't want to play Cleric till I read this. So.
All about the spell casting.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. These spells that you get very much remind me of like the Shadow Sorcerer bloodline. That kind of direction or theme to it. So I dig it. Like I wouldn't normally play a sorcerer either, but with Nil, I took a sorcerer archetype and took the shadow.
That's because sorcerers are like kind of useless.
Yeah, but I know it's been fun. I've been coming to terms with Magic more and more as a player. So I think I'll probably explore it more and more. I've always been more of a martial person, but yeah. I think the next one you wanted to touch on was how'd you say you pronounced it? You had a actual Calistria, right? Yeah.
Calistria. There's an LISS in there, so Calistria. Should be like a double syllable in that S for some reason.
And I like this one because it ties in a bit to one of the previous favorite gods of mine. So
I feel like you should have put another S in there if they're gonna write it out as. I mean, I'll put in the pronunciation from the chat while you bring up the graphic.
It should be up by now.
Looks good. So it says it's pronounced Kalis. Like, you see that double S after the LIS right there?
Mm-hmm.
You would think that would have that stressed syllable, but I'm like, I don't know. Anyways, very similar to Urgathoa, who I covered last time, which is really strange that I picked two deities and picked like their mirror copies of them, because Avadar and Aristil are very similar, just different sides of the civilization coin, I guess you could say. Calistria is very different from Urgathoa, but they're also almost alike. She's a goddess with several faces and disguises. Most importantly, she is the epitome of lust and revenge. Those are her major areas. She takes the form of an elf lady, beautiful. She goes by the title of Savored Sting. We'll go into that more because Savored Sting is more than just her title. Her colors are yellow, like that of a stinging wasp. She dressed evocatively with a life form, and she is the embodiment of chaos. It's sad that we lost the chaos tags and stuff in the previous editions.
We're losing your video and possibly your audio, Jack.
Figures.
Hold on a second. I think we still got audio though, so you can keep going for now.
How's my internet holding it there? Okay, let me know if I drop.
You're back, I think.
Let's see here. Right, so...
Yeah, I think you should be good now.
If you're making an elf, you might worship her. Those who are free of spirit or fickle would follow Calistria. She's known for her burning desire, both her primal urges to, cause you harm and also those other burning urges. She's neither good nor evil. However, she does like long plots to get her revenge, which I found kind of misleading because that goes against some of her anathema. Her anathemas. Her followers would probably be chaotic. She is chaotic neutral, so anybody could be one step away, chaotic evil or chaotic good. Although, I really don't see how a character could be chaotic good and then focus on revenge and lust. So if anyone's got any ideas of how to be chaotic good and yet focus on revenge and lust, please let me know. For a good cause. Her beauty is well known, and even Caden, whom you covered last time, John, the accidental god, rose to immortality by chasing after her. He was unable to resist her lure and failed at gaining her attention, and that's why he went after the Starstone. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah. Well, he went through the Trial of the Stars, but
the Trial of the Stars, yes. He did that because he was trying to get with Calistria, according to her backstory.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the research I've done on him said it was a drunken bet, but who knows? Maybe it was after her. I don't know.
That's her side at least.
Yeah.
At least her lore says. I noticed the stories were like, this is a case of what he said, what she said.
Yeah.
Well, besides her terrorists, she is well known for causing pain. She's vindictive, full of contradictions and secrets. So
that does not sound chaotic good at all.
I just don't understand how you can be chaotic good, especially considering she's so similar to Urgathoa, who is just so evil. They feud about they would have like the same worshippers who would worship lust, but Urgathoa is more about physical excess, whereas she is just focused on revenge and trickery. So her edicts include pursue personal freedom, seek your hedonistic thrills, take revenge. But her anathema is don't become consumed by love or your need for revenge. Also, other thing that you cannot do is let a slight go unanswered.
I get like major Aphrodite vibes from this chick, or maybe what was the? Was it Agamemnon, or was that the guy in the story? I think Agamemnon was the woman in Greek mythology.
Aphrodite is the goddess of beauty.
Of beauty, right? But I'm thinking of the story.
It's very similar, except for if Aphrodite was a wasp, because she stings. So some of the parts of her anathema is don't fall in love.
Wow.
It just
okay.
seems like I love it. So her attributes are dexterity and charisma. That's totally a wasp, right? Because she's chaotic, you can heal or harm. Versatile. Her skill is deception. Go figure. And her favorite weapon is the whip for more pain. Hey, that's a free martial weapon from the flail tree. Finesse, non-lethal, reach, and trip. Those are everything you need for inflicting pain, but not actually killing somebody. So you might be able to use that for your chaotic good character, you know? just for added flavor. I mean, who needs that extra 2 to hit, right? Just swing with a -2. It's non-lethal. Get over it.
This goddess, I guess, is all over the place. I feel like you know how in history we often are left with these ancient texts that are like translated upon translated upon translated, and when you read 5 ancient texts, you get 5 different explanations of the events, kind of deal, with like different that all contradict each other. I feel like that's what we
Mhm.
got with this goddess. I feel like there's like so many different records of her, and they're all contradicting, and like
That's kind of the point. She's one of her domains is secrecy.
interesting.
I thought I noticed that too when I was doing some research on her, and it's like, as I said, she likes contradictions. So like, the lady likes to keep her secrets. She doesn't want anybody to, really know what's going on.
Well, all right, then keep your secrets.
You keep your secrets. So her main domains are pain, passion, secrecy, and trickery. Secrecy and trickery. I mean,
Yeah.
can we trust anything she says? So she's like the master of wasps. She's known for the savored sting, which I talked about earlier. It's her title, and it's part of one of her domains under pain. Pain, you get the savor the sting, which I really want to make a worshiper of Calistria so I can test out how good the savor of the sting is. It's a one action, it's a touch, it's basically everything she's known for. It has a lot of lore built into the spell. So here's the spell text. I'll just read it. You inflict pain upon the target and revel in their anguish. 1d4 mental damage plus 1d4 persistent mental damage. The target must make a will save. As long as the target is taking persistent damage from the spell, you get a +1 status bonus to attack rolls and skill checks against that target. And if that doesn't make you want to run a harm-based evil cleric, some kind of torture straight out of Terry Goodkin's Wizard's First Rule, I don't know what would.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I mean, I really like that they associated the whole stinger slash bee thing with her. I think it very much fits her, seemingly her personality, and her the way she operates. What I find interesting though is that they missed an opportunity to make her favorite weapon a dagger if she's a stinger, and create an artifact for her called the stinger or the sabered stinger or whatever. Though the whip fits so well with her as well, so I almost think they should have called her the sabered snake or something, and that would have been like kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. And her whip could have been like her artifact could have been like a whip that turns into a snake or something and bites. I don't know, something crazy like
You're making me want to make artifacts for these games.
that. I'm actually surprised deities don't have artifacts, and I mean, like, rules is written in this game. Like, I feel like that's such a natural thing.
I made quite a bit of for Aristil in my Libra campaign for different items, magic items based off of the church that like they would have held in the reliquary.
I feel like these deities would have wielded artifacts, and they would have been passed down to their followers.
Received boons from them that like would have made their weapons more aligned to their cause. Kind of thing. A church reliquary like gives out quest rewards for people who complete their religious, so to speak, quests.
We should add that to our list of homebrew stuff.
Yes, let's add that to the list of homebrew. Make some relics.
Yeah.
For the deities.
And speaking of homebrew, we do have Ratfink live on the website, so go check that out. Let us know if you have any issues with it in play, if you do decide to play with it. We'd love to hear feedback on it and see what y'all think. Shameless plug over.
You guys like to hear, maybe let us know if you guys would like to hear about. John, were you in that combat for Ratfink?
Yes, I was actually.
Someday we'll have to talk about that scary conflict.
Yes, and all the things that led up to it. That was actually quite the dungeon in general.
Thank you. So finishing up Calistria, she's got the Passion Domain, Charming Touch. I've already said my opinion on charming things. It's just play with the rules for friendly or more hostile, and it's a touch. Secrecy Domain has Force Quiet and it sounds really really cool at first. Force quiet, you quiet the target's voice, and then I was like, oh, this is really bad. 30 feet, 2 actions, and yeah, I mean, it has great lore and flavor, but it's just really poor execution. I can't see a situation where quieting a target's voice. I mean, it literally says in the description they can still cast spells and do verbal components. It's like a
It's
weak
a
sauce
role play
version.
thing, I guess.
Right. It's got great lore and flavor, but I just can't see you using it in combat.
I will say I don't think I've seen a deity with a better, like a more perfect list of spells, like cleric spells, than her. Like every single one of them just fits perfectly
With her domains and her
her
spells.
domains
Yeah.
and her personality and everything about her. Like
The
they are
the
so on
trickery
point.
thing. Oh man, that sudden shift. Sudden shift is it's worth it to get the trickery domain. I want to figure out what other deities have trickery domain, because for a rogue, taking cleric and getting this domain
These
focus
ones.
is so useful. You move from a dangerous spot and then veil yourself. You step and become concealed. I mean, just wow. I love
Yeah.
this. Concealed? Uh, every rogue wants to be concealed.
Well, every rogue wants to be hidden, but concealed is definitely a boon.
It's an improvement for hiding.
Yeah.
And it's gonna scale with you all the way to level 20 because it's a reaction. So, not many rogues do have some reactions, but clerics definitely they don't have reactions. So this is great because it's that empty spot in the repertoire and you're filling it with a reaction. So for a cleric, this is super useful. Um, I really liked the trickery domain. It's got the major spell Trickster's Twin, the only major one that I wanted to cover. A little strange and hard to read, but overall it seems useful in combat, so check that one out. So from her Divine Tradition, you get additional spells, Charm, 3rd level you get Enthrall, and 6th you get Mislead. Charm is great if that's what you're trying to do. Normally a cleric wouldn't have access to this spell. Enthrall, it's just a more powerful charm. And Mislead is kind of a 2-in-1, both invisible and a moving illusion.
It's a deception spell. These are what I was talking about when I said like I've never seen a deity with more perfect set of spells for who they are. Like charm, enthrall, mislead, like those are her by the definition, right? Like those are perfect for her. I love that they put a lot of thought into that.
I didn't even know Mislead was a spell until I read this list. I was like, this is for a 6th level spell. It's not doing invisible well, and it's not doing unmoving and illusion well. But for a 6th level spell, getting both, that's not bad actually.
Yeah.
It's I was kind of impressed with that. This would go really well with the Trickster's Twin when combined. I mean, this is going to really increase your survivability. You'll probably just piss your GM off because they'll be like, I'm not supposed to know where on the board you are because you're invisible and you've got a misleading, doppelganger out there.
It's part of the Fey sorcerer bloodline. It's so perfect.
Ooh, yes, yes it is. Everybody who is in my games is like, no. So, finishing her off, let's see here. There were some mentions to how some of her followers like to use the Sabered Sting. It gets can be a little subtle, and other times it's a little incontrovertible. She kind of grants that boon as like a path towards vengeance. So I really want to see people who are like lore-wise, you moving in towards a person who doesn't maybe start off worshiping Calistria, but it does as they go on a path of revenge. And this is great for workers in that particular trade, or entertainers, dancers, that kind of stuff. As like an empowering weapon, somebody who doesn't have some means to attack, this Sabered Sting seems to like be the central focus of her. She's got some future reading for adding into your campaigns, the Book of Joy. It's supposed to detail passions that are held sacred by the goddess of the unquenchable fire and her church. So
I would
if
like
you're
to
looking
see
for that,
more like books, not physical books like in the real world, but like in-game books that.
like Elder Scrolls putting down those books and
Yeah,
all
I
their
would like to see more of that. I mean, that's something I try to do in my games. So I think it adds a
very well.
layer of um,
I'm hunting down
verisimilitude, but
more books than all your games.
it's a lot of work. So having it'd be nice if like I don't know. I would love to see a companion book, like companion book in real life that it's just a book of books. The Galarians say, you know what I mean? That you could just like pick and choose and modify for whatever setting you have yourself. Um, yes, the Thief How To book in Skyrim is amazing. To be honest, all the Elder Scrolls books are really well done. I'm really impressed with the work the writers do there. I had a question though, Jack. The what is the alignment requirement for the vengeance based champion in Pathfinder 2?
Vengeance-based champion. I think it's just good.
Chat, if you know as well, feel free to help us out. I'm wondering if that champion can use this deity. I feel like if not, they missed a huge opportunity there, and I can't imagine they would make such a grave mistake.
I don't know if let's see here. Vengeance. Vengeance is well, you've got anti-paladin, desecrator, tyrant, liberator, redeemer, and
I think it's
paladin.
Redeemer's the one I'm thinking of. It's the one that's based on
That's neutral good.
Okay. Which is not one of her follower alignments, which is interesting.
She's chaotic, so you could be chaotic good
That's
and
true, yeah.
be a champion of Calistria.
Aelos is saying vengeance looks chaotic evil. If that's the case, it would fit as well. Okay, well, I'm just happy they didn't make that mistake because I feel like that's something I could count on Paizo for doing.
I really feel like vengeance would be lawful evil. You know, like using the law to get your
Oh,
revenge.
come on. Who uses the law for vengeance?
Right? Avenging the law seems to be kind of a trope almost.
So yeah, I think Calistria would be a super fun one in play, especially if a lot of your, a lot of the enemies you're going to be encountering in your campaign are humanoid, where charm and enthrall and mislead and stuff could really show their power. I think this would be really, or I guess intelligent, not necessarily humanoid, but this could be very, very fun in those scenarios. And I kind of imagine like a arcane trickster cleric multi-class, which I think would be insanely fun to play. So you got a bit of cleric, you got a bit of I think they use sorcerer or wizard in the arcane trickster. I can't remember from the APG. I think actually you can pick.
If you're looking at the rogue racket, you can start off the Eldritch caster. I believe you can choose your attribute and
yeah, you choose your attribute. I think you choose. Yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, I think that would be a really cool combo for this because you'd have arcane or whatever spells, and you also have your spells from your cleric dedication, and then you also have the roguey stuff like sneak attack and everything. I think that'd be which all of that together makes a very tricky individual. And I feel like that's kind of a really cool thing to play there.
I would really like to see you play some spell casters in my games. That'd be great.
Yeah. Nil has some spell casting, but it's all utility, and isn't the spells I picked haven't been super useful in a lot of situations. I need to retrain at a magic weapon. Magic weapon's kind of useless now that we have magic weapons.
Yes, magic weapon does get pushed to the wayside. It's a shame that magic weapon doesn't have any kind of scaling or anything,
Yeah.
but Yeah, your spells should maybe lean more support, like cast them on other people in the game, other than just giving yourself more sustain.
Yeah, right now, I mean, I have like invisibility and ghost sound and message. I think of the. You don't get a whole lot until like level 10 ish when you can take um, the next feat in the sorcerer dedication and you unlock more spells there. I think I'm like at the max and I only have like one first level spell, one second level spell, one third level spell, and two or three cantrips. I can't remember what's up in my head. So I'm limited, but it's still fun. I mean, some of them have come up. Ghost Sound, while Rules as Written doesn't have any real mechanical benefit to it, I like rolling it as kind of like rolling into the deception checks for create a distraction or whatever, create a diversion. I think is the name of the skill action. If in my games, if somebody did that, I would probably give them like a +2 circumstance bonus to their next create a diversion action or something. Yeah. Yeah. So things like you can do there.
You did use it in.
I did. Yeah, I used it in the one against the Inevitables, I believe, but I rolled really bad on it, if I remember correctly, so it didn't actually work. But story of my life. When I'm a GM, I roll excellent. When I'm a player, I roll terribly.
I roll terribly as a GM, and I seem to be rolling. I've been a forever GM for so long. When I do play in other people's games, I tend to roll quite well. I just not one all the time as a GM.
Other than the Sanra's last stand, you typically roll pretty well in my games. So, as a player,
yeah, I didn't roll terribly at all during while I was playing Sanra.
Yeah,
that was not the case of bad rolls. That was a case of GM getting good rolls.
So the last deity we wanted to cover was Desna, which she doesn't have a whole lot of lore on her, but I think she's a really freaking cool deity, and I really want to see more lore on her. So she's very much like the muse goddess, which I think is cool because she's also tied to the stars. And I think there's like something beautiful about tying like art and stars together, kind of like that. I'm gonna read an excerpt from her. Yeah, the Muse from Outer Space. I'm gonna read. That'd be a great book name, by the way, if any authors are in here. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, I'm gonna read an excerpt from her lore page. It says, after surveying her artistry, she hung the brightest star high in the north and made it her home. Her first gift to mortals was this beacon of hope, a twinkling sign in the dark sky that they could turn to when lost or unsure of themselves. Desna provides safe passage through the darkness to all, should they choose to follow. Which whoever wrote that is poetic as fuck. And I think it really lends itself to how good Paizo is at tying things from our reality into the game in ways that fit both narratively, but then also making them work so well mechanically with the rest of the mechanics. And I think they have a really, really good skill with that, a talent, I guess you could say, that a lot of other RPG writers don't necessarily have. So her edicts include, traveling, exploring new places, expressing yourself through art and song, find out what life has to offer. I mean, other than that middle one, that's like adventuring in a nutshell, right? Like any adventurer should have no problem filling those edicts. And if you're a bard adventurer, you're set. I think with her favored weapon being a star knife, and her divine skill being acrobatics, but yet being so muse focused, I see her as a. So I haven't actually seen a picture of this goddess, but in my mind, I envision her as a dancer class. That is a bard rogue combination where she's going to be up there, in the front lines with daggers and knives in this case, fighting with the other melee fighters, but also using her bardic skills and her songs and dance to inspire her allies or enfeeble her enemies. And this is actually very much. Let's see, what is this he shared?
You haven't
Okay.
seen your human form. I was like,
Very much not a dancer that I had in mind, but I think if I put her into my game, she very much would be that. And yeah, I think that's a perfect like physical manifestation of this goddess, if she came down to Galarian and started to intervene with the mortals' day to days.
oops, we went back to Calistria.
Was that?
We went back to Calistria on accident.
Oh, whoops. But yeah, other than her muse stuff, she's also the goddess. Her domains also include dreams, luck, moon, travel, of course. The dreams thing I think is really cool. I love the idea of tying, art and the stars and dreams all together. I think that's a really beautiful kind of combination. Um, and I think there's a lot you could do from a lore perspective. What was that?
I think acrobats really does fit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who are doing, interpretive dance, sword dancers, acrobats, gymnasts, all of those things comes with the skill acrobatics, and a lot of them, they need inspiration. This is why they want to muse in the first place.
Yeah, and this is kind of why in my head canon I view her as a dancer type. I feel like if she manifested physically in the mortal realm, then that's how she would look in my world.
Dancing with the butterflies.
Yep. Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be if we ever did an art piece of this goddess. I just imagine the starry sky, the butterflies in a pond. My dogs are going crazy. The butterflies like in like a pond environment at night, with her just like dancing under the moonlight, would be with daggers in hand, would be like that's how I would have her drawn or illustrated.
Favorite weapon? Oh, it's a star knife. It's like. No.
Interestingly, one of her alternative domains is the void, which I find interesting. I don't see too much mentioned about death or death or the void, which is like Pathfinder's version of hell almost, where the demons reside. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that comes from. But yeah, I'd really like to learn more about this goddess.
So hell has devils. The abyss has demons.
Yes, you're right.
The void would be more for aberrations. It's think like Yogg-Sothoth. I guess you could say Cthulhu, Hastar.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean the void is also where Phrasma resides with all of her psychopomp followers and everything.
I didn't realize Phrasma. Does it say where did you find?
Yeah,
like,
it says she sits in her gothic mansion, basically in the void. I believe it said. Let's see. Maybe I read that on the wiki. I don't recall.
It sounds like she provides you safe passage through the void. Would you say that's like one of her tenets?
Yes, she does do that. But I believe I read she was in a gothic citadel at the center of the multiverse, which I believe is the void, and I could be wrong there. But regardless, I don't know why the void is under her domain. So there's got to be something there I'm missing.
She guides you through it with the travels.
No, not Phrasma. I'm talking about Desna.
Yeah, Desna is supposed to guide you through those kind of things. She's got the travel.
To guide you through the void? Are you sure? I didn't.
She's meant for interstellar travel, so she's like the only benign creature from the void.
Okay. I missed that in my research, but if that's true, that makes sense why she would have the void as her alternate domain then. Chat, light us up. Let us know if you have any knowledge to throw down there.
I think
Happy to
one
hear.
of you played with Desna in your games.
She's from the stars in the Big Dipper. I don't know if he's being facetious there or if he's being
Well,
honest.
you mentioned the North Star, so I think that they're playing
she
on
she is
North Star.
definitely, yeah, she definitely created the North Star and created her home there, but I don't know if she currently resides there.
Well, the stars is part of the void. Void is synonymous for space, so it kind of all ties in together.
Okay. Yeah, I'm no expert in Galarian lore. I typically homebrew most of my stuff, so that's good to know.
Well, I mean, it looks like a lot of it comes straight from 3.5's. Basically, the how the planes kind of sit between the astral plane and the material plane and all of the elemental planes.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little difference between 5th edition and Pathfinder 2 in that regards. It's just kind of like layout. Like 5th edition has, I think, the Shadow Bell or Shadow Plane, like kind of like took over some stuff, so there are some subtle differences, but like the base layout hasn't changed much.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the 2E focuses more on the inner sea region of Galarian, whereas 3.5 focused on other regions. But I'm not a 3.5 player, so I could be entirely wrong there as well.
Oh yeah, 3.5 had, well, it was around for so long.
Yeah.
It had plenty of time to go across all the regions. 5th edition is slowly doing that as well. We kind of think of Swords Coast as kind of like where it all happens, especially when they released games like Path of, was it Mines of Fendelver, which is just inland of the Swords Coast. So a lot of their dragon heist, takes place in just regions that are super near that all that area.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Sword Coast was their primary region of Faerun that they were focused on. That's why they released one of their first companion books was the Sword Coast Adventure Guide, which expanded on that lore and added new stuff. So yeah,
it's like Sword Coast, Inner Sea of Galarian. They're like, I see them so similar.
Yep. So cool. I guess last few minutes we can finish her up. Yeah, so we mentioned her domains are dreams, luck, moon, and travel. Alternate domains are star and void. Her cleric spells are interesting. I really like dreaming potential. I think that's a really cool one, and it fits her aesthetic. Sleep also fits her aesthetic. Fly, on the other hand, I guess because she resides in the stars and she has butterfly wings. That's why they gave you fly. I don't really know, but I mean it's kind of like tangentially thematic, I guess. But I feel like they could have gotten a little more creative on that one. Travel, yeah, I see it. Yeah, but I still feel like it's kind of I don't know. It feels like a stretch to me. I don't know if there's like I don't know if in Pathfinder 2E there's the equivalent of 5E's Fine Steed. She's the goddess of Red Bull. It gives you wings. But I feel like something like equivalent to like Fine Steed would be a better fit. Get horse. Man, this is just full of jokes today.
Get along, little doggy.
Now this is Desna, not Callistra. Desna doesn't have a whip.
I'm making Callistria's whip. Making it. It's happening.
So.
You guys don't want it, I'm giving it to you anyways.
So yeah, we're running up on time. We're almost done, I think, with the deities, right? I think there's only a few more left in the Inner Sea region in specific.
I think we have a bit more to go. If we keep doing 4 at a time, I think we have at least 2 more videos of this to cover all the Inner Sea gods. I want to say at least 2.
Okay. Well, let us know if these kinds of videos are of interest to you. If they're not, then we'll come up with some better stuff to do. But we do have some other stuff planned for the following weeks. You want to let them know what our schedule is? I know we haven't posted it on the calendar yet, but I know we've picked them out and everything.
Right. We've got 12 more deities to cover for the Inner Sea region.
Three more.
let's see, we have not uploaded to the calendar, so let me find those dates. So next video would be June 27th. We're gonna try to pump something out Father's Day weekend that's coming up. So we won't be doing a stream, but we will be pumping out some extra stuff for you guys. It'll be on the website. It'll be on Discord. It'll be on our Reddit. So the 27th, we'll be covering favored archetypes. I've already got the script ready for that. John, I'm assuming you haven't had a chance to pick your
No,
archetypes
I've got
yet?
them. I've got those.
Already?
Archetypes are like my favorite thing in Pathfinder, so
Nice.
I could talk for days on those.
Hopefully we didn't choose the same ones.
Well, I have a bunch, so if we did, I'm more than happy to pick other ones.
I usually choose magic, and you usually choose
Yeah.
martial. We cover everything evenly. So July 11th, we're looking to cover history of tabletop RPGs. We had talked about branching out. We do love Pathfinder, but we're not married to just one tabletop setting. Following July 18th, what kind of GM are you? And July 25th, problem players. So we've got a very wide variety of topics to cover in the next month coming for you guys. Not to mention, we'll be pumping out more homebrew monsters, and we're finishing up an archetype.
Yeah, speaking of Dancer, I'm working on a Dancer archetype that is going to be similar to like a Bard / Rogue combination, but not require either of those. So it's very much
A little bit juggler, a little bit assassin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's its own archetype.
Yeah.
To kind of give you an idea of.
It's
if you can't-
the idea is that you provide support to your allies and enfeeble your enemies using various dances for focus spells. So it'll be kind of neat, I think. It's something I've really wanted, and ever since Jack built a dancer flavored bard in one of our games, I thought it was a really, really neat idea. And especially after he took the more roguish direction with it, I thought, you know what? I like this, and I think I want to make it something more concrete, more mechanic focused. So, yeah, hopefully have that out soon. I already started getting the artwork together for it, so we have that being worked on while I work on the mechanics. So we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully the artist pulls through. He did a great job on Ratfink, so I'm hoping he can pull through again on this one.
Let us know what you guys think of the art for Ratfink.
Yeah.
That artist put a lot of work into it. I had a lot of changes of direction, so kind of put them through the ringer. They did such a good job.
And as usual, if you guys have suggestions or wants for when you want us to see us do streams on or videos on or whatever, feel free to submit them on Twitter or Mastodon or Instagram or wherever you feel see fit, and we'll try to add those on.
Hit us up on Discord, Reddit, Twitter.
Yes, we did launch a Discord too. I think we mentioned at the beginning, perhaps. I can't remember if we did or not. But we'll have the invite link in the description. It's also on the website if you need it. But yeah, we're still small right now as usual. So we will hopefully continue to grow and get more and more of you in here.
Right,
So,
guys. Thanks for coming.
did you have anything else, Jack?
It's just thanking everybody for showing up today. You guys, and the following week.
Yeah, sorry we're kind of sporadic on schedule. This last couple months and upcoming couple months are kind of hectic with us. So
Moving,
yeah,
surgery, visitation.
yeah, exactly. So we're trying to get on a more consistent schedule. Hopefully, once things calm down between us, we'll be able to start pushing out weekly for real. So yeah, until next time, happy gaming.